Hello Libra, Libra rising and Libra moon people. This is your monthly astrology horoscope for November 2016. And if you haven't noticed, that's my way of just saying you should probably check out those horoscopes as well. A quick reminder for those of you who are new to this channel or haven't actually checked it out yet. Weekly horoscopes now include astrology. The first half of each weekly horoscope does have the astrology for that week, and the second half is all about the cards for that week, so there's something for everybody. Also, if you are interested in getting a personal session with me, something more specific to your unique situation or your unique chart, you do need to make an appointment with me at my website, integrativemysticism.com, where you can schedule an appointment for a Skype or phone reading, or order a downloadable video file. So, what is going on with the month of November for you? Well, a lot is actually going to be focusing on your love life in the beginning of the month. We've got Mars, the planet of action, passion, and energy, moving into your 5th house, and this is the love and romance area. However, when it comes to Mars, it kind of brings up everything to do with the 5th house. And the 5th house, yes, it is the romantic honeymoon sort of area of the zodiac, but it can also rule our children and our creative projects. And with Mars on the love side of things, you can definitely see a lot more in the way of physical passion and physical chemistry, getting ignited, getting inspired, getting much more, I guess you could say, active during this month, especially from the 9th all the way through the end. And you can also expect that your partner is going to be wanting to make more of a buddy out of you. And this is kind of the energy of Mars, because while passionate, it does also rule sort of that Aristotelian philia type of connection, which is all about learning how to also become good friends. On some days things will feel a lot more passionate, electric, and sensual, and some days it'll feel a bit more dispassionate, but more thoughtful. And of course, those are all good things to have in the mix of a love and romance that's meant to go the test of time. And this is going to work in favor of those of you who are single and those of you who are coupled. However, with Mars in the 5th house, on the other sides of things, things might get a bit complicated. Because the 5th house can rule our relationships with our children, it might prove to be a bit tense this month when it comes to relating to a child, especially when we need to overcome conflict or confront situations where a person might not necessarily know how to articulate their feelings in the most direct or comprehensible way. So make sure to exercise some patience, especially when it seems like people might not be, especially if they're children, in a position to be the most emotionally communicative or emotionally intelligent just yet. Okay? So, moving right along, we've got Venus going into Capricorn, which is your 4th house of home and family, where she will stay also through the duration of the month. And with Venus in the 4th house, this is talking about also bringing a lot more effort towards peace, towards love, towards harmony on the home front for you. And with Venus in the 4th house, this is a great time to be trying to reconnect or maybe even strengthen the glue that bonds you and your immediate family together, whether it's the nuclear family you have in your home with your spouse and your children, or even your own blood relatives, your own kin. Because this is in your 4th house, this is definitely talking about people who share your roots. This is also a time for those of you who have been thinking about maybe actually trying to expand on a home, whether it's beautifying a home or increasing the value of a home or a property or an asset or an investment that you have, that you'll actually start to see a lot more rewards for that effort. You might actually notice that the value of this property or the value of this asset is starting to increase rather drastically during this time. Venus tends to be very nice to people who are trying to sell. That's kind of how things work in the zodiac. Venus benefits the seller, Mars benefits the buyer, and so it's definitely a seller's kind of month in November for the Libra people. On the 12th, we've got Mercury, the planet of communication, haste, and information, moving into your 3rd house of communications, of information. And this is actually a great month for those of you who are trying to get something involving maybe your vocational training or your skill set expanded upon. We've already got Saturn in this area of your chart, where Saturn in the third house is actually very friendly. Textbook, mainstream astrology might just kind of slap, Saturn with a negative label, but it depends on what house it's in, giving you a little bit of a peek behind the astrology curtain here. And with Saturn in the third and Mercury in the third this month for you, this is actually a great time to be focusing on where we can actually expand on our technical training. Maybe either getting a certification, a permit, or maybe even promoting ourselves by expanding on our education, working through a way to kind of maybe expand our job profile or to actually promote ourselves. This is also a great time for those of you that are looking to do any traveling or maybe even make an update to a personal piece of communications equipment, such as a phone or a camera or a car. This is actually the, sort of a month where you're going to notice the best deals on updates for yourself. On the 14th of the month, we have a full moon in Taurus, which is in your 8th house of passive income, your shared resources, the intimacy zone. It's kind of an interesting spot to have a full moon, because normally full moons can bring culminations and endings because it raises the energy. But because this is in such an intimate area, and it does talk about, again, the intimacy and the sensuality, I'm actually seeing this as a much more passionate and much more carnal moon for the Libra people. This is probably going to be one of the steamier months that the Libras have this calendar year, especially between the 14th and the 20th. And this may actually be a great time to even schedule yourself a little long weekend or a little holiday with a partner, or if you are looking for a new partner, this would be the time to be putting yourself in circulation, because it's going to be magnetizing you to that opportunity. On the 19th, we do have Neptune turning direct in your 6th house of physical health, reputation, and daily work. And Neptune, when it's retrograde, and when it's direct for that matter, tends to be, a neutral planet. It's not as, I guess you could say, elementary, cut and dry label opportunity as you would perhaps say like a Venus retrograde or a Mercury or Mars retrograde would be. Because outer planets tend to always have both black and white at the same time, especially Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. And with Neptune retrograde over the last, 5 or 6 months, going back to June, it's been a very interesting opportunity for a lot of Libras to see what their physical and mental health is, actually doing as far as like how are we operating, how are we, making progress, because the X-ray goggles are there. You're also noticing during this time, especially with Neptune in the 6th house, people tend to find out where their intolerances are, especially as far as certain schedules, certain sleep patterns, maybe even nutritional intolerances, food intolerances, allergies, and things like that. And when Neptune goes direct, it does take a lot of the symptoms of those things away, but it's also very important to understand that sometimes those things are still there. And we can still be a little bit more sensitive when Neptune is in our 6th house to even things like medications and certain types of therapies. They tend to hit us a little bit harder. Even things that might be a bit recreational, indulging in certain types of food or maybe even drink, we might find ourselves a little bit more easily hit during this time once Neptune goes direct. So it's always very important to pay attention to, I guess you could say, how quickly something is going to be affecting our system, and be more observant of our system, because that mind-body connection is so much more impactful to you when you have Neptune, a very psychic spiritual planet, in the 6th house. And once it goes direct, it's even more powerful. So make sure, again, over the next few months that we're taking all the necessary precautions, but not necessarily just precautions for the sake of fear, but learning how to be more observant and, not be hijacked by any symptoms or surprises that might come up when it comes to handling things like medication. On the 21st, we do have the Sun moving into Sagittarius, into your 3rd house of communications. And this is actually a really good time for people who are independent contractors, or those of you who prefer to work on a contractual basis, or those of you who maybe even work more as, more on a temporary basis by choice, or those of you who are performing artists, or those of you who are looking to get into publishing, because when the sun goes into the communications zone, we tend to have better listeners around us, better critics around us, and people who are genuinely invested in looking into what's going on with what we're producing, what we're creating, what we're trying to generate, which is always a really nice thing, because, sometimes it's hard to find a good listener. Even with horoscopes, it's kind of like, I'll say one thing and I didn't know I was saying something completely different. That's why sometimes I don't do horoscopes with my family very much, because it's like, I know what that is, and I'm like, I'm looking into the future, not into a week ago, but whatever. And with the sun going into Sagittarius, basically from the 21st of this month all the way up until the 20th of December, again, finding people who are actually going to help you cultivate and create, from your own craft, from your own art, is going to be all the more easy. In fact, a week later, on the 29th, we do have a new moon in this very same area. And this could actually create a new professional alliance or a new artistic alliance that might actually even rejuvenate or revive an artistic or creative practice that you may have let go by the wayside just because it didn't seem like a collaborator was available. Not so much anymore as we get into the, get towards the end of this season. So that is your forecast, Libra. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate it. And of course, if you'd like to get a session, you can always follow the links below, or go to integrativemysticism.com.